It's a little too complicated, a little too nuanced. Are you really going to memorize all 16 of white's options on this move?
You realize this is totally going to get clipped and shipped, right? What you just said.
What?
Because they're one of the streamers competing in PogChamps last night was learning the Najdorf defense from Mr. Robert Hess.
Who? Robert Hess? I'm gonna call Robert Hess.
So next up, I think we've got the exchange Caro-Khan, which is e4 c6 d4 d5 pawn takes, and then white can either bring the bishop out or bring the knight out. Usually c4 is playable, but I think normally bishop d3 and knight f3 are what constitute this. So what do you think?
I think it's a very legit opening, but I don't think it's anything else. It's usually what I tell folks is like a placeholder. You could play this for now, but then once you start getting, better weapons against the Caro-Khan, like the advance, the two knights, all these tricky queen moves. But if it's just something you want to play because you're a little too lazy to learn theory, go ahead. So it's legit. You could play it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I more or less agree.
Just this might be the fastest one of the entire show. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, I think it's legit, but there's nothing very special about it. I just don't think there's anything to say.
Simple.
What do you think?
Okay, cool. No,
I think it's fine, but it's just, I don't know. Okay, so next up we have the sorry, I didn't show it. Yeah, I think it goes to the bottom of legit. What do you think?
I honestly care so little about it. Like, we could put it anywhere. Sure. Yeah, bottom of legit. It's
okay. So next up we have the exchange French. So the exchange French, of course, pawn e4, pawn e6, d4, d5, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. What sort of strong words do you have about this opening, Levy?
Look, the exchange Caro-Khan is a very legitimate thing, but I feel like if your goal in life is to trade a pawn on move 3 and get symmetry, get a life. Put this in the garbage bin.
I can't believe you said that, Levy. But I do kind of agree. I think at the lower levels you should not be playing the exchange French. Now I was watching the stream last night. I think I was watching It's Hafu's stream when she was on, when she and David were playing chess, and I noticed that they were asking what is an opening that nobody likes. And one of the openings that came up even in their stream was the exchange French. So I totally agree. I think it's a very bad opening. It does not teach you great principles either. Like, it teaches you to play symmetrical. I don't think there's much to it. It's one of the worst openings I think you can learn as a beginner. So it's better than the birds. It's better than Bomb Cloud. I'll put it above. I'll put it kind of. No, it's got to be bottom tier. So it'll go there in garbage. All right. So next up we have Fool's Mate, which of course, as we know, pawn g4, pawn not e6, sorry, pawn e6, pawn f3, queen to h4, checkmate in 2 moves. Levy?
Okay, probably bad for white. I mean, maybe marginally bad for white. And I think that if you're playing with if you're playing here with the black pieces, and like, let's say you're playing your kid, or you're playing, like someone new to chess, just give them a shot. Maybe tell them not to play g4. Just like, don't play queen h4, because I feel like if you just beat somebody like this, just kind of mean.
But they need to learn.
It's true. So do you throw them in the deep end of the swimming pool to teach them how to swim? Like,
well, but if you do that, they're gonna be like, why do I waste my $100 an hour on a chess lesson, Levy? You're fired.
That's only if they're in New York. Trust me, there are cheaper lessons. There are cheaper lessons out there. But
okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Where do you think it goes? I mean, I think it goes like in tricks only.
All right. Yeah, probably better than the entire garbage tier.
Yeah. So next we have the 4 Knights Italian game. So that is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, I guess, knight f6, knight c3, bishop c5, and like d3. Thoughts?
Pretty unbreakable, pretty solid opening. I don't know, like legit or unbreakable, because everything I teach in the opening is a little bit off the beaten path, but this is fine. This is how you should play the game.
Yeah, I actually tend to agree. I mean, one of the very first chess books that I ever got, it was a prize for winning a tournament at the Manhattan Chess Club. You did go there, right, Levy?
No.
It didn't exist?
Nope, it did not exist. It was gone before I was there.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh, that's very sad. Anyway, as I was saying, I played a tournament at the Manhattan Chess Club, and the first book that I got, I forget the title, it was this Josh Waitzkin book, but the line that had was something like castles, pawn d6, bishop g5, bishop g4, knight to d5, knight to d4, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop h6, rook e8, and I think it was like king h1 or it was king h1 or it was like c3. But basically it's a mirror game. And I remember that was like that was literally I think the first book that I ever picked up. I was so young, and so the fact that that was in that book and that was the first thing I kind of ever saw, I totally think that it belongs in a high category. So I would agree. I think it probably belongs in. I think it belongs in Unbreakable. What do you think? Wait, where did it just go? Did I just move it? Oh, I put it in tricks only. Sorry, I meant to move it up. I think it goes in Unbreakable. I think it's how you should play the game when you're just starting out. For sure, I think it belongs up near the top. So it goes it's in Unbreakable. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. So next up we have the Fred opening, which is pawn to f3. Let's say pawn to f6, king to f2, king to f7. Very similar to the Ball and Cloud, although the king is much more protected with the pawn diamond around it.
Yeah, no. No. No.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
No.
Just no.
No.
Okay, so no means
no.
Down here in the trash bin.
Listen, if Chessbro made a video on it, don't play it.
Okay. Okay, Levy. All right. Okay, next opening, French defense, of course, is pawn to e4, pawn to e6. What do you think, Levy, since it's from the black perspective?
I think you're playing the wrong pawn to the 6th rank. I think maybe the c6 push is there, but I don't hate it, you know, like I think the d5 is completely fine, and just generally anything to avoid maybe some e4 e5 kind of stuff
right
is better. Legit, maybe really broke because it's like got the whole meme system behind it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I think at the beginner level it is the first opening that I ever played, by the way, to be clear. So
how'd you get inspired by that? How did that happen?
I think it's just because you push the pawn to d5, you activate the bishop.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I don't know why I played. I don't even remember who taught it to me, but I remember it was the first opening I ever played. So I think for sure it goes in legit, but towards the bottom of legit, for sure.
Okay.
So next up we have the Gucci piano, which, as everybody knows, is pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, pawn to c3, knight f6, d4, pawn takes, pawn, bishop b4, bishop d2, or knight d2, but basically when white plays with c3 and d4 here in the center. So what do you think, Levy?
I have one experience with I sat down to teach a new student who was like 9 or 10 years old, and he told me he plays this. He rattled off a bunch of moves. He's like, my grandmaster coach told me how to play this. I played d5 like somewhere. Game fell apart. Like that was it. I mean, it was just memorized moves and the game fell apart. So you can learn the theory here, and I like the big central expansion, which makes me think it's legit or unbreakable. But you gotta like study some stuff after that. Look at how some strong players play when the person plays the best way. Don't just expect your opponent's going to do stupid stuff and you will win fast.
Right. I mean, I think it's a reasonable try as well. I don't see anything wrong with it per se, but I do think I think it goes in tricks only, because I think if your opponent knows what they're doing, it doesn't work. I think a lot of kids will lose games when they're just starting out, when they try to play this on the black side. So I would say it's I think it goes at the top of tricks and tricks only.
Okay.
Oh, you disagree?
No, I'm agreeing.
I don't think it's garbage. That's the thing. Like,
no, it's not garbage. No, definitely not.
I think it's tricks only, at least for me. Okay, so next up, of course, we have the legendary fried liver, which is e4, e5, knight f3, knight 6, bishop c4, knight to f6, knight to g5, pawn d5, pawn takes, knight takes pawn. Lure the king to the center of the board because you're attacking the knight twice. King e6, knight c3, knight e7, and then either pawn to d4 or castles kingside.
I think this is fantastic for white. At an elementary level, the king in the center, all the pressure. I feel like if you are allowed to play a fried liver and you play it below 1200, and you know your stuff, win rate can easily be 90%, because people just don't. You're not supposed to do this. Like, I teach bishop c5. I don't teach enter the fried liver because it's just crazy. I actually even teach h6 early, so that they just play knight f6 and everything. So, yeah, I love it. I think it's a great opening.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I can put it. It's hard to put it in legendary because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like most kids should know how to defend it,
or just not allow it. That's really the thing.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think people allow it, I'm just going to put it at the very top of Unbreakable, because people don't have to allow it. If there's some way that like you could always get it, it'd be legendary. But I don't think you can get it. You can avoid going into it. And I assume most kids these days are taught to avoid going into it. So I want to put it Unbreakable. The fact that people aren't forced into it makes me just put it at the top of Unbreakable. Yeah, so yeah. It's like I want to put it in legendary, but people don't have to go into it. So top of Unbreakable feels like the right place. It sounds pretty breakable if it's avoidable. Okay. But I think it goes in Unbreakable. All right, so next up we have another personal favorite of mine, the Grand Prix, which is in the Sicilian. That is e4, c5, knight to c3, let's say knight c6, pawn to f4, followed by a quick development with knight f3 and bishop b5 or bishop c4. So what do you think, Levy?
It's a legit or a really, bro. I don't really have much to elaborate. We've seen a lot of different Sicilian sidelines. I like that in these positions, if you play bishop c4, d3, and like f5 or something, you get some big attack. But I don't know. I mean, it's not something that really provides huge problems to black. It's just the setup. So it's like fine. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think it's a very straightforward concept. Again, it's the opening that I grew up playing against Sicilian, basically from the time I started until I became 2200, 2300. So why aren't you Super Grandmaster then, Levy?
Oh, because I didn't win many games.
Okay.
I played it. We played the same opening, Hikaru, but the results of our games were different. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I kind of agree. I think it's a pretty solid setup. I think it kind of goes in legit. It's probably better than the exchange. Better than the Dutch. I think it goes in the middle of legit. I would just put it in the middle of legit. Okay. So next up we have the GROB opening, which of course is on move 1. White plays pawn to g4. Take it away, Levy.
Well, you shouldn't play like this, but if you do, and you kind of, you study some Hikaru GROB games, then how many GROB games have you played? Never. You've never played one G4? I'm gonna go to chess.com/explorer. I don't believe this. Wow. Okay. Well, if Hikaru doesn't play it, then don't play it. That's all I have to say. Just don't do it. A little tricky. Some tricks.
I don't think I've ever played it. Have I?
14 games, but you've played b3, e4, d4, knight f3, d3, e3, c4, g3, f4, knight c3, c3, a4, b4, a3. More than you've played g4 on move 1. So
basically every move. Okay.
Yes, basically every move.
I did it against Mamadiyarov in the Pro Chess League when we were like out of it. Yep. This is true. I forgot about that game. That's a good point. I forgot about that one.
Yep. Okay, but bad opening, huh?
I think GROB goes, yeah, where does it go? Garbage? It's definitely garbage, right? No,
Probably.
actually, you know, I think it goes to the bottom of tricks only because you can get that trick with the bishop g2 and c4. Because someone's like, oh,
yes.
someone's like, oh, you know, I can go d5, bishop g2, bishop g4, c4, and then like c6, and then after takes queen b3. Actually, sorry, after e6, queen b3, the whole pawn chain gets destroyed, and white wins on this long diagonal down towards the rook. So
not to mention that there also is this. Like,
true.
Which could happen. Having said that, beginners, there also is this which can happen. So beginner games can be absolute pandemonium. So don't win the rook and then hang your own rook.
Right. So I kind of agree. I mean, I think it's an opening that you can play, but it's only for tricks.
Yes. Somebody says, no, it can't. I know. I know you feel personally attacked, sweet throw. But I did study your games, and that is what happened. So
next up, we have the Gruenfeld defense, which is pawn d4, knight f6, pawn to c4, pawn g6, knight to c3, pawn to d5. Levy?
One of the worst openings, actually probably the worst opening that you can play as a beginner. Besides the ones that are, obvious trolls like g4 and so on. Very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Very bad. Don't do this. Too complicated. Don't touch it. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I agree. It's garbage.
I think it's the worst opening on this entire list.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's very close. It's somewhere in the bottom. Maybe not the bottom, but it's definitely in the bottom.
Any Gruenfeld players in chat?
Apparently people are unhappy. Yeah. Peter Svidler. I mean, he should be happy though, because we want to remember him as a Hearthstone streamer more than a chess player. So I mean, his accomplishments in Hearthstone far outweigh his accomplishments in chess. So it makes sense that for chess we put him at the bottom of the trash heap.
But Hikaru, I just bought like a $700 Gruenfeld course, and I'm rated 700. Should I get a refund?
Good one, Levy. Good one.
Oh.
Right. Okay. So next up we have the Hillbilly Attack. Do we actually know? I don't even know what that is.
You don't? Oh, wow. Okay, I got it. So it's for white. E4.
Okay.
C6.
Okay.
Bishop C4, D5, Bishop B3.
Okay.
And the idea being D takes E4, Queen to H5.
And if black goes G6?
If black goes G6, I think you go Queen E5 and Knight C3.
Okay. He's not joking. Yeah, I know Levy's not joking. I literally have never heard of this opening.
Oh no, Queen H4. Apparently it's Queen H4. I apologize. My chat GMs are piping up. It's not Queen E5. I've butchered Hillbilly theory.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen this Bishop C4, Bishop B3 idea. I just had no idea it had a name.
It's literally the Hillbilly Attack. Look at the opening explorer.
Yeah, you're right. It's the B10 Caro-Khan defense, the Hillbilly. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Levy?
It's got to be a tricks only, because it's. I mean, objectively speaking, it's pretty ridiculous. But what I will say this, it's really dangerous for black. Like black can lose very fast. So, yeah, I'm glad I can teach Hikaru something today. So about Hillbilly and.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's kind of. I think you're right that it goes in tricks, but because it actually is not bad, like it's not like clearly losing or something. I think.
Legendary.
No, I mean it goes in tricks only, but I think it goes at the very top.
Okay.
Of tricks only, because I think it's better than the Juco piano because it doesn't look like it just loses. I mean, let me see what the eval bar says. How bad is it? Eval bar is not very kind. It says -1.
But at the beginning level, -7 doesn't mean anything. So.
Yeah, I think it goes at the top of the of tricks. I totally think it goes at the top of tricks.
Okay.
Okay, so next up we have the Hippo, which is, as everybody knows, it's pawn to like E3, knight F6, D3, say some random moves, where white sets up this formation with knights on e2 and d2, pawns on like h3 and pawns on a3. So you create like the hippo defense, because I guess these are supposed to be like the hippo teeth or something. I don't exactly know the specifics, but it's when you develop your knights like this and you put your bishops on both of these long diagonals up towards the black king. So Levy, what do you think about this?
I don't like it because you're not taking enough space. That's all it is. It's, you know, it's legit, it's solid, and if you, but I think you can lose very fast. It might be a really bro. It's not a tricks only, because there's no tricks.
Right.
Doesn't have any tricks. So
yeah, I agree. I think it goes in really bro. I think it's we're in really bro. I think it's so bad in terms of understanding the ideas that it has to go at the bottom of really bro, because it's just like something you should not be playing for those ideas as a beginner.
Nope.
Okay, so next up we have the hyper accelerated dragon, which is what exactly? I don't even know what that is. The
super yeah, I don't know.
That might just be a copy. I think that's just a double, so I'll leave that off for now. I think that's just a copy of the accelerated dragon.
We should put them side by side.
Okay, fine. Okay, you're right. Okay, there we go.
One's just hyperactive, you know.
Right.
One just is a little crazy. All right.
Oh wait, no, it's not the same thing. It's e4 c5 knight f3 g6.
Oh.
Then it's different story. Then it's a very different story. Because then I think d4 takes queen d4. Like these knight f6 e5 lines are extremely dangerous for black. And you don't even get the guaranteed setup with bishop g7. So I probably would put this somewhere else. I don't know.
Dangerous.
I think it's very dangerous. I think it's actually just garbage.
Okay.
I think it goes somewhere in the middle. So yeah, I think it's just garbage. All right. So next up we have the Italian, which is pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, and basically white plays d3 without playing the Gucci piano with c3 and d4. Just normal kind of development, very straightforward. So what do you think, Levy?
It's good. It's very similar to our legendary and Italian four knights game. So I mean, I don't know. This kind of is just side by side with the four knights game. I think, like, what's the difference? Are you not going to play knight c3? So
yeah, I kind of agree. I think it belongs up there too. I think it belongs again in this unbreakable category. I think it's just a very solid opening, and there isn't really much of a difference, so it should just be in the unbreakable. All right, so next up we have the Jerome Gambit. Well, again, very similar to the Italian. I believe it's bishop c5, bishop takes f7, king f7, knight takes e5, and queen h5, if I'm not mistaken. What do you think, Levy?
Well, this was not very good when grandmasters were involved, but at the beginner level, gosh, I mean, obviously there's only tricks. Like if black plays the right way, but man, it might just be a bottom tier legit opening.
Really? That's where you put it. Interesting.
I mean, it could be really bro. You know, it could be, because I feel like soon everybody's gonna know about it.
Right. This is true. I mean, once everybody knows about it, it won't be as good as it has been. Like, I don't know. I really don't know where it goes. Because for now it's something that's like really not known. I think once people actually have the chance to look at it and study it, they'll realize it just loses by force. I think I'm gonna put it. It's gonna go fairly high. I think I'm gonna put it right near the top of Unbreakable though, because I think for right now it's pretty good. Actually, can't go above the Fried Liver. I think I put it second in the Unbreakable tier. I think it ranks pretty highly. I do. Oh, you disagree, Levy?
No. Sorry, I was reacting to something else.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I can put it in legendary. I think it has to go right near the top of Unbreakable though.
That's a
You're not a
might
fan.
Surprise folks.
You're just not a fan.
No, I'm still sorry. I'm still reacting to what I was just written. Okay.
Okay. All right. So So next up is the King's Gambit, which is pawn to e4, pawn to e5, pawn to f4. So you gambit the f pawn, and usually you go knight f3 or bishop c4, playing for very quick development.
It's not bad. Let me say this: it's not bad, but it's dangerous. That's the thing. Like you play with fire. There's these systems where there's checks on h4 if you don't know what you're doing, and you know, imagine you run into like a knight f3 or a g5.
Right.
I you know, it might be a really bro. It's or a tricks only even. But the thing is that again, there's not a lot of tricks. I mean, if black just doesn't take the gambit, you get a great position. So.
Yeah, I don't know where to put it. I'm really torn. Like it's. I think it's legit. I think it's legit, but like I don't know how legit. I don't think it's a really bro, because I think as a beginner there are a lot of basic themes for attacking towards the black king using the bishops on the diagonals that make sense. So it's like it's legit. It's definitely, I think it's legit. I think it's bottom of legit. It's just above really bro. That's where I'm gonna put it. That's where I would put it. Okay, so next up we have the King's Indian defense, which is let me flip the board for black purposes. So it's d4, knight f6, c4, g6, and knight c3. Not pawn to d5, which is the worst third move in the game, but bishop g7, pawn to e4, and then pawn to d6. Thoughts? Good
opening. Actually, probably a legendary opening for beginners. This is a fantastic one. A lot of PogChamp 1, PogChamp 2 participants were taught, are being taught, will be taught this kind of a system. It's a great setup-based opening for black or for white. It's up there. It's up there in the legendary category.
Really? Wow. Okay, wow. Is that just because you're teaching it to David Pacman?
No. It's because I taught this to a scholastic program. I mean, I had an army of kids playing this system. So yeah, it's a good one. It's a little bit mysterious, some of the middle games that happen, but in terms of piece development and system-based play, then it's up there.
Yeah, I kind of think, I don't know where it goes. I think it's legendary, but unlike when we looked before, I think it's the bottom of legendary. I don't think it ranks as highly because there are too many times when you don't get to attack. So I think it's legendary, but I think it's at the very bottom of legendary.
Okay.
So next up is the King's Indian Attack, which is for the white pieces. So that is let me flip the board again. That is knight to f3, pawn d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, pawn to e6, d3, bishop e7, knight d2, castles, pawn to e4, like let's just say pawn c5, castles, knight 6, e5, knight d7, rook e1. And essentially white tries to play the same it's a little bit different, but white tries to attack, close the center. He wants to go knight f1, bishop f4, h4, h5 with knight h2, knight g4, and just attack with all these pieces on the king side.
So personally, I don't put this in the same thing as the King's Indian defense, and that is just because you're never going to get this as a beginner.
True.
This just won't happen. I mean, craziness is going to happen, you know. So it's legit, but here's why I'm not going to put it in unbreakable. My own mind. Because if black plays like really aggressively but potentially poorly, and you just stick to your setup, you'll get a bad position.
True.
So that's my logic. And
all right. Yeah, I think it's legit. I don't think it's anything more than that. I think it's too hard to play as a beginner. The ideas are not straightforward at all. I think it's bottom of legit is what I would say. Okay, so next up we have the Latvian Gambit. As I mentioned the other day, it's an opening that has been made very famous by the great Latvian chess player Forsen. So knight to f3, pawn to f5, black gambits black gambits the pawn on f5 here. So what do you think?
Here's what I'll say. Against knight f3, it's okay. The problem is that I watched way too many people lose in the first 5 moves. Like they're just like, I'll play the Latvian Gambit. I mean, the problem is that to play the Latvian Gambit, all you got to do is play f5. Congrats, you've officially played the Latvian Gambit.
Right.
to play it well is a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, bro, or tricks only? Final answer.
Final answer. I like it. Yeah, I agree. I think it's tricks only, but I think it's so dangerous because you open up the king so early that it has to be like near the bottom. It's just way too risky, I think, for beginners, because most times you just lose within 5 moves.
I'm gonna let you take London system entirely on your own. I'm gonna use the restroom, so you get the floor.
Okay,
you can say whatever it is.
Okay,
it's like,
okay, so all right, I'll see you in a few, Levy. Okay, everybody, so we're gonna look at the London system. So that is pawn to d4, black can respond with pawn to d5 or knight f6. Normally I think black respond either way. Black responds, white goes bishop f4 with the idea of e3, bishop d3, and knight f3. Generally very straightforward. For example, d5 e3, pawn to e6, bishop to d3, followed by knight f3 and knight d2. So I what I would have to say is the fact that we've seen so many of these so many of the PogChamps players learn the London. I feel like I mean, not to take credit, I know those people are going to say it's a flex, but it really felt to me like when I showed Fusli that London, which she won in that very critical first game. I think that was the first game ever of PogChamps, the game that she won against EROB. For me, that sort of set the trend. And now when you look at a lot of the players who are being coached, almost everybody I would say is learning how to play the London or how to reply to the London. So Rob, no, but he's not. He just had a bad tournament. He was obviously busy. A lot of stuff going on. So without a doubt, for me, I think it has to be going legendary. I don't think there's anywhere else it can go. It's above the King's Indian. I think it's probably like second. I would put it second. I think it's just the simplest sort of setup to play with the white pieces. So I think it definitely goes in legendary. What do you think, Levy?
You put London second in legendary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, you agree? Yeah. It seems like the hygiene. I know Eric Rosen has been pushing on YouTube way before Fusli played the opening. I'm well aware of that. There are many people who have been mentioning the opening for a long time.
Eric Rosen invented it, actually, so it's yeah.
Right. But the point is that basically with PogChamps, I can't think of a single player who hasn't like learned something about it. Honestly, I think everyone has seen it, which says a lot about it. So next up we have the Marshall attack, which is pawn to e4, pawn to e5. Very long line, you guys, so you don't need to dank me out with the memes, but it goes knight c6, bishop b5, playing the Ruy Lopez, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop to e7, rook to e1, pawn b5, bishop b3, castles, c3, pawn d5 trade, knight e5 trade, c6, idea to go bishop d6, queen h4, and attack down towards the white king. What do you think?
This is like the worst opening ever for beginners. It's not as bad as the Gruenfeld. There's no tricks involved. It's more like a, hey man, what opening are you studying right now? Oh, I'm studying the Marshall attack. Really, bro? Like it's not garbage. It's very good, but you'll never get it on the board ever.
Also true. Yeah, so I would agree. I think you're totally right. Yeah, you'll never get it. I think it's too, yeah, it's just too obscure. But in general, no, in general, it's playable, obviously, and it's a very good opening when you're strong. But it's not yeah, time to memorize all these moves so I can play it in my 1200 game. Yeah. The problem with it, of course, is people don't have to go into it either. They can avoid it entirely by not grabbing the pawn. So for me, where I would rank it is, I would say, yeah, I think it's a really bro opening. It's way too advanced. And it's interesting because when I look at this now, if you look at the really bro category, you'll notice that there are three openings on the really bro category that when you're looking at it from a stronger perspective, like a grandmaster perspective, 3 of these openings would basically be legendary. The Berlin is legendary. I think we put Catalan as like legendary or very top of unbreakable. Marshall attack would also be completely at the top of unbreakable. So I think it shows the difference. All right, so next up we have the modern defense, which is pawn to e4, pawn to d6, d4, and black can play knight f6 or pawn to g6. Both moves are playable. Black tries to fianchetto the bishop and develop the knight, castle the king. What do you think, Levy?
I don't quite see the difference necessarily with the King's Indian. So is there a difference? Enlighten me, sir.
Well, you don't get to just roll the king side. If white plays knight c3, white can go like f4, just play knight f3, and you very rarely get this closed structure where you can attack. But I don't know, it depends what you think.
Well, the thing is, yes, but we're talking about, you know, potentially under 1200, under 13, under 1400. So
guess it's very straightforward, right? The idea is very simple, just to play for the center with pawn e5 and knight f6.
So is it just like a long lost cousin? Is it a relative of the King's Indian? Do we put it in unbreakable because it allows white the option to play f4? Oh, we don't put it in unbreakable.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting because my attitude was that it's like one of the worst things you could play. So when you start saying it's one of the best things you can play, that makes me, I don't know where to put it. I just assumed because you give up the center, it's not great, but you do get to put a pawn on e5 very quickly. So because you do get to put the pawn here pretty quickly, it's not so clear cut. I don't know where I'm gonna put it. It's definitely not legendary. I'd put it, I think it's somewhere near I think it's very near I would put it near the top of legit. I think it belongs in legit. I can go in unbreakable, but that feels a little bit too iffy for me. So that's where I would put it. So next up we have the Najdorf, which is pawn to e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, pawn to a6. Thoughts?
I don't completely hate it. At the same time, why are you a beginner trying to play the Najdorf? Like, not to, you could play whatever you wish, but there's better stuff out there. Easy to understand stuff. It's a little too complicated, a little too nuanced. Are you really going to memorize all 16 of white's options on this move?
You realize this is totally going to get clipped and shipped, right? What you just said?
What?
Because they're one of the streamers competing in PogChamps last night was learning the Najdorf defense from Mr. Robert Hess.
Who? Robert Hess? I'm gonna call Robert Hess.
Oh my god. Oh jeez, for Levy. Yes, so in case you were wondering, yes, last night Robert Hess was teaching the Najdorf to Hafu. So yeah.
Is he being paid to make someone take a dive or something? Okay. All right. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I guess, yeah. So you think it's bad, right? I think it's garbage.
Robert is in the chat. Hi, Robert. That's what I figured. That's what I figured. I think he was showing her what exists rather than recommending what to play.
Ah, okay. Okay.
I think that's what he was doing. Because see, Hey, Robert. Okay, yeah. I don't even have to call Robert. He just appears. Amazing. Hey, Robert. Hey, man. Okay.
So I mean, for me, it goes in really bro or garbage. I think it sort of goes to the bottom of really bro. I just think it's another one of those openings that, like, I just don't think you can play it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So next up, we have the Nimzo Indian, which is an opening for black. So this is pawn to d4, knight f6, pawn to c4, pawn to e6, and when white plays knight c3, you go bishop to b4. What do you think, Levy?
Against d4, c4, I like this a lot for intermediate players. Anybody who I teach this to gets decent positions, like you b6, bishop b7 and stuff. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for beginners to learn, but yeah, I mean, on d4, you really should put a pawn here first. Just, you know, then do everything else, because you'll get hit with something you won't be ready for, and if they take the whole center, it's very bad. So it's probably a bottom tier legit opening, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think when you're talking intermediate, it's much different. I think it ranks really, really high for intermediate level. But I think when you're starting out, the risk of not putting a pawn in the center is quite great. So it's definitely legit. It's one of the best openings out there, period. So I would say it's probably in the middle of legit, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe a little bit lower. Somewhere in the middle, I think, of legit. Because it's a very good opening. And obviously, at a higher level, it changes completely. But I would say it's in the middle of legit.